Well, the time is just gone. 7 minutes past 8 a.m. I am Inayat Wadi with you. We'll be with you right until 10 a.m. this morning on the Friday edition of News and Views. And we're kicking off this morning, taking a look at the Jacob Zuma's India visit. And is this a question of faith or fundraising? Was Zuma seeking Gupta cash in India? Political analyst Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast. Dr. Breakfast, good morning to you, sir. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me this morning.
Yes, this has been a major talking point in South Africa, and questions have actually been raised with regards to this meeting. Now, we've seen already reaction coming through from South Africa, where we've seen Fikile Mbalula speak about a slap in the face for South Africans and referring to the Zuma and Gupta reunion, Dr. Breakfast.
Well, I don't think that we must be taken aback by this because even though Jacob Zuma appointed the Zondo Commission to uncover the truth about what had happened, later on he changed gear and said that it was meant to frame a discourse against radical economic transformation, of which the family of Gupta that is on the run benefited from the state machinery because they were using political capital and social capital in pursuit of personal accumulation. Therefore, Zuma has never seen anything wrong with state capture. In fact, he got an antithesis of that. That there's nothing of the sort. It was just a diversion. There was no such. So I don't think that we should be surprised now when we see him visiting the Guptas.
Yes, but the fact of the matter is, as you said, is Jacob Zuma has never seen anything wrong, or in his mind, he may not think that there was anything untoward as far as state capture is concerned. But this clearly has sparked a lot of criticism, particularly from analysts and also anti-corruption campaigners who have actually slammed this visit as a display of impunity and double standards.
Yes, of course, because I mean, you're talking about a I don't want to say a statement, but a former head of state, who is supposed to be a model that the whole country needs to look up to. Because what this means is that it doesn't see anything wrong with the fact that his family is on the run and is wanted by the country. And he goes and he associates himself with that family. But also the fact that he was accompanied by someone within a depot, that on its own also leaves much to be desired. As if now he was there on behalf of the implementation of our foreign policy as the embodiment of the country. So, I mean, what can we expect from former President Zuma, who does all sorts of things and makes the excuses for them? Yeah, it's one of those things. I think it's one of those realities that we have to live with the country.
Dr. Breakfast, just in your analysis and in trying to unpack some of the key issues that are playing out, but also more importantly, in terms of the purpose, the real purpose of the Zuma visit to the Guptas.
So when you were setting the scene, you made a very interesting statement that it could be that he was on a political mission for fundraising. I don't think that we can rule out that possibility. I don't think that we're off the mark. I think you are on point there because elections are just around the corner. This family, it's an open secret. It has been financing Zuma, and MK will be participating in the election. So I think maybe that could be the reason. But this demonstrates unethical behavior that a former head of state, because I mean, that's why I don't want to use, because I'll be dignifying him. I don't want to describe him as a statement because he's not, because he doesn't stand for those values that are unifying South Africans, that are exemplary. But I think, and lastly and most importantly, you also see some double standards. On the one hand, his party rebuked Freud for associating with someone who was on the run, was a fugitive. On the other hand, he's doing the same thing and he doesn't see anything wrong. So you can see there are contradictory actions as well.
No, absolutely. But also, Dr. Breakfast, looking at this whole visit, on the one hand, you're looking at a former head of state, and whether He visited India and visited the Guptas in his private capacity. At the end of the day, he still was granted privileges. He went on a diplomatic
Yes,
passport.
yes,
The High Commissioner of South Africa to India was actually present, and he played somewhat of a facilitating role from what we have learned or we have understood. And this has actually sparked a huge debate in South Africa to the extent that there have been certain calls to revoke his privileges after meeting with the Guptas. We've seen Ronald Lamola speak about or asking for answers after the diplomat was actually pictured with both Zuma and Gupta.
yes, there must be accountability there in terms of how was this trip allowed and how did he get the permission to leave the country? How did he get the visa? So that is something that the minister and other senior bureaucrats will have to demand answerability from some of the senior officials, because there's a bureaucratic process for that. And if people need to be disciplined, then so be it. But if the argument is that the privileges that he has must be taken away from him, I think then that will be a constitutional matter, because the Constitution stands according those privileges. Then if maybe they'll take them away, then they will have to follow that process. I think maybe the formulators of the Constitution never saw it coming that we will have a former head of state like this one who's ill-disciplined and who's not exemplary.
You make an interesting point, Dr. Breakfast, when you speak about the formulators or the architects of the Constitution. And obviously, this is something that we need to think about very, very carefully as well, because today it's Jacob Zuma, tomorrow it could be somebody
Yes,
else.
yes, yes.
And I think this leaves us very, very open, and the risks are extremely high.
You see, the Constitution is not a dead document. The Constitution is a living document. The Constitution was framed in a particular epoch. So we have to move with the times. There have been some changes in our democracy. And please don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be everywhere here. There are gaps in the Constitution. It's the same as this thing of after the elections, both parties have 14 days to constitute the government. Because of the fragmentation of the political environment, that also must be addressed. It's the same as this thing of former President Zuma, even when he wanted to be a member of the parliament. So I don't want those who formulated the Constitution, but I think at the moment we need to re-examine some of the gaps and try to bridge them.
Yes, Dr. Breakfast, I'm going to explore a bit of that in a lot more detail after we come back from this break. I need to pay some bills, so we're going for a quick air break and put you on hold.
It's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
Right now, over 150 million children around the world are orphaned, facing hunger, hardship and uncertainty. With Islamic Relief's Orphan Sponsorship Program, you can provide a child with access to education, nutritious food, essential healthcare, and a safe home. Your sponsorship is not just support, it's hope, security, and a brighter future. Be the reason an orphan child smiles again. Sponsor an orphan today with Islamic Relief.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042 203 1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Are you banking with convenience, transparency, and flexibility? With Al Baraka Bank's transactional banking account, you can enjoy convenient everyday banking designed around your needs. Benefit from zero fees on point-of-sale transactions and manage your banking easily through Al Baraka's secure mobile banking app and internet banking platform. From everyday payments to managing your personal or business banking, Al Baraka makes banking simple, transparent, and convenient. Visit albaraka.co.za to learn more. Al Baraka, your partner bank. Al Baraka Bank Limited is an authorized financial services and credit provider.
Gaza needs your support more than ever. Homes have been shattered and families have lost everything. With your support, our teams are delivering clean water tankers, feeding the hungry, and assisting orphans who have no one left. Let us give Gaza whatever help we can. African Muslims Agency, empowering, educating, inspiring.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Well, the time is just gone 18 minutes past 8 as we continue this morning with news and views. And we have kicked off this morning taking a look at Jacob Zuma's India visit and the meeting with the Guptas. We have got political analyst Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast with us this morning, unpacking some of the issues. Dr. Breakfast, just to continue, and interestingly, we were talking about the Constitution and about certain gaps in the Constitution. And once again, I think, when we talk about privileges for a former head of state, but again, looking at it constitutionally, looking at it that, Jacob Zuma was sentenced to prison. And would, the Constitution allow, for a situation where, once again, benefiting from state support, state resources, and also at the same time looking at him visiting a family that obviously left South Africa under highly controversial circumstances. They're being described as criminals, they're being described as fugitives as well. So, putting all of that together again in terms of the rule of law and applying the Constitution at the same time, where does this actually leave us as a country?
Look, I think the fact that he was convicted, yes, I know that the Constitution doesn't speak for itself. It is made to speak by the judiciary in terms of the provision of interpretation. And even within the legal space, there are different understandings and interpretations of the Constitution. But I just think that maybe because we have taken a step back and looked at the country as a whole in terms of the future of the country and some of the political development, there needs to be a explicit clause that addresses this matter about ill discipline, because this is, unethical conduct, former heads of state, how maybe if one is off the mark, those privileges can be taken away. But I think at the moment, it will be very difficult just to invoke the Constitution to take away those privileges. I understand. The only thing I'm well aware of, and I'm sure you will agree with me, is the fact that you cannot be a member of parliament. I think there's a specific time frame at which you need to have served his sentence and so on. But with regard to privileges, I think he still enjoys them, and the Constitution accords him that privilege.
Yes. Now, also, Dr. Breakfast, Ronald Lamola has asked for a probe into the purpose of this visit, and at the same time, his department, the Department of International Relations, with the High Commissioner to India involved as well, and just in terms of these inquiries to try and firstly determine the purpose of the visit, but also at the same time the role of one of his people, the High Commissioner Anil Suklal, involved in facilitating or being present at the meeting with Jacob Zuma and the Guptas.
Yes, if there's a problem, I think the first thing that you need to do is to identify the problem. What is the problem? And for you to do that, you need to uncover the truth about what had happened. So I support the board of an inquiry to collect the facts and then act accordingly. I think someone must be disciplined. There must be people who are held answerable for this, so that something of this nature doesn't happen again, whereby you've broken the law, you are on the run, you are a fugitive, but at the same time, a former head of state is supporting you in public.
Well, certainly, but also at the same time, when one looks at some of the other reaction that's coming through, and I found this quite interesting coming from the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation, talking about how disturbing this, or deeply disturbing this visit was, and saying that rather than viewing this as a standard private visit, South Africans must confront the damning realities established by the judiciary. And this is making reference to the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into State Capture, and again, where Jacob Zuma was central to the Gupta family's enterprise, Dr. Breakfast.
Remember, Zuma has shown a total disregard of that commission that he actually appointed. Later on, he said he appointed it against his will. So it doesn't take those findings seriously. And also, as you know, the findings of a commission are not binding. I think that's why he was convicted for that. I think it's really unfortunate to have a leader like this who's not exemplary, who's not a statesman, who's not embracing the democratic values of nation building, and who just wants to do as he pleases.
Yes. Now, just looking ahead of the elections and assuming that, Jacob Zuma obviously went out to get cash to fund the MK's election campaign ahead of the local government elections. And looking at where we are in the political landscape right now, coming off this march that had taken place on June the 30th, MK supporting the March on March movement, and, all of this is taking place in the build-up or to the run-up to the local government elections, Dr. Breakfast.
Yes, of course. It's understandable that you don't win elections by having only ideas. You have to have money. But that must be done within the framework of the Constitution, within the framework of the law, and also juxtaposed to the point that you made about the ongoing protest in opposition to undocumented foreign nationals. MK also has jumped on the bandwagon by joining forces with the civil society in pursuit of garnering votes. So we also see an element of political opportunism there, because they want to get votes at all costs. And I don't know, Zuma is convinced that they are going to ascend to power, at some point, and he wants to unify blacks. It's crazy. I think we just have a person who doesn't care, wants to do as he wants.
Well, certainly, but also, where does this actually leave the ANC as the majority party, and also possibly looking at some of the other political parties in the country, the DA, for example, and they've already submitted parliamentary questions to Ronald Lamola to determine, what has actually happened and why the red carpet was actually rolled out for Jacob Zuma. But again, because you've got a relationship in the form of a government of national unity, and all of this, it tells us that we've got some very, very interesting times ahead of us, where we have all these divergent views coming through as well, and also at the same time going forward in terms of how this country is going to be governed.
So, with regard to the ANC, I mean, it is on the back foot, as you know, it doesn't enjoy hegemony anymore. So, I think it will be difficult for it to make some of the changes and maybe to address this matter by itself. It will have to join forces with other political parties, and then I think it will be a bit difficult to address this matter politically through parliament in that way. So yeah, I mean the ANC has always been the biggest loser because MK is a breakaway from it.
Well, certainly. But also, I think, we've got somewhat of a history, and this is just my final question as well to you, Dr. Breakfast, is, punishing someone like Jacob Zuma at this point in time in a very volatile political climate. And we've seen so many lessons, and the risks are there. I mean, they are huge. And, what would those implications be if the government decides that, we need to revoke his privileges, we need to punish him in other ways? Or what are some of the considerations?
Look, I mean the Constitution, Section 9, says everyone is equal before the law. That is my definition of the rule of law. So that principle must be upheld. But of course, I understand what you are saying. That's why I'm saying that it's not going to be easy just to invoke the Constitution without depending on a specific clause that helps you to frame then the argument that this person is off the mark like this and because by so doing you'll be seen to be persecuting him, to be harassing him, and that also might work against you. And as you said, I mean, we've got the political instability in some places in the country with the protests and with the threats that are posing danger. So I think one will have to be circumspect. My view is that the way out of this is to maybe re-examine the Constitution and then address it accordingly.
Yes, and that constitution requires a two-thirds majority.
Of course, that's the complexity, I may say. That's the complexity, unfortunately.
Well, Dr. Breakfast, thank you very much for that, and also for your time with us, as always, on Salam Media. We wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. All the best.
Dr. Ntsikelelo, breakfast with us this morning, just unpacking the issues surrounding Jacob Zuma's visit to India. And these are questions that are very tough questions that one needs to ask. And more importantly, looking at it from the government's perspective as well, where there are calls for the government to revoke the privileges to provide answers. Ronald Lamola is seeking answers from his own department, with Anil Suklal being present with the Guptas and Jacob Zuma. So all of this actually put together, the question is, what can we expect to come out of this, and what will the final outcome be? This is the critical question. But will there be consequences for someone like Jacob Zuma, who is the former head of South Africa? With that, the time is just gone 8:30 a.m. We come back and we take a look at the new ethnic unity law in China. What does this mean for the Uyghur Muslim community?